started. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for what will be the first of hopefully many webinars hosted by the Inclusive Housing Coalition. I'm Tim Dolan, and just so everybody is aware that this session is being recorded for future use on the IHC website. So just be aware of that. I'm Tim Dolan, and I'll begin the event with a brief introduction of the Inclusive Housing Coalition, and then I'll kick it over to our great panel of presenters, all of whom are working to develop, preserve, and provide services for neuro-inclusive housing. So the Inclusive Housing Coalition, is a Colorado 501c3 Colorado organization established to address the unique affordable housing challenges experienced by people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And we do that by increasing awareness and building opportunities for development by bridging the knowledge gaps between the affordable housing, the service provision sectors, and the IDD community and their caregivers. And we provide information through research, training, and webinars, just like the one we're having today. So please check us out at ihccolorado.org and follow us on LinkedIn. And with that, we will begin our presentation, starting with our fine folks from the Grove at Cottonwood at Broomfield. And with us today, we have Gina Coufal and Kristin Hyser. Go ahead, guys.
Hi there. Thank you, Tim. Pleased to be here. I'm Gina Coufal. I am first and foremost the mother of 3 adult children. My oldest, Joshua, has intellectual and developmental disabilities. I'm also the founder and CEO of Friends of Broomfield, and we are a provider agency providing services to adults through day program, residential, supported employment, social, and travel. Over our 25 years of doing advocacy in our community, one of the main topics has been housing and affordability. As many of you know, we have over 85,000 individuals in Colorado that have an IDD, and 72% are living with aging caregivers. So the issues that our population is facing across all communities and across the nation is the affordability when folks are on fixed incomes, the availability of vouchers and landlords that accept them. And it presents a problem for many of our individuals who do want to move towards a more independent lifestyle. I'm proud to say that we've had several accomplishments in our community through housing coalitions, housing advisories, and many of our community partners who band together to educate and make our leadership aware of the issues of this population. The most important recently being an inclusive housing ordinance, and then the establishment of our own housing authority. I'm very excited about the work that our housing authority, Broomfield Housing Alliance, has begun and has already made a great impact. I would like to say that going forward, it presents a lot of concrete solutions to a lot of the issues that we are facing and that we've identified. So with that, I would like to just turn it over to my friend and partner, Kristin Hyser. Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. I'm not sure what's going on with the slide. I want you to be sure to see both of our mission statements because it really takes both of us and our agencies working together. So maybe if we progress, maybe Friends' mission statement will show up. Anyhow, all right, Gina, do you want to share your mission statement, or do you want to drop it in the chat maybe? Because I want you, I'm not sure why that happened, but.
Yeah, that's okay. I will definitely just drop it in the chat.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, good morning, Kristin Hyser. We're going to kind of fly through our talking points because there's just so much good information on this presentation today. I also want to call out my colleague, Amanda Ropek, who's actually the developer that's working on this project for us, and she's here as well. And I know she'll kick me under the virtual table if I say anything wrong. And then I also want to call out Desiree Kamika Galloway, who has been a part of this visioning since the beginning of this opportunity. So how this came about with the Broomfield Housing Alliance, we are the housing authority for the city and county of Broomfield. We were created as an independent housing authority just in 2022. One of the first awesome coffees I had when I came into this position was I sat down with Gina and several of the parents that are affiliated with Friends, and they just immediately expressed this tremendous need that I was kind of aware of, but not really, but just heard their passion in their voices and just the need to find housing opportunities for their family members. And fortunately, and we'll get to this when we're talking about the ingredients of what's making this successful for us, but we immediately had an opportunity to buy a piece of land that just really spoke to this opportunity for us to partner with Friends and other organizations that are supporting our IDD neighbors, our neighbors identified with IDD. Oops. There we go. What are we? It's kind of, maybe go back to that. Thank you. So, and so we were just able to come together very early on to see just the potential in this piece of land that we were able to acquire to achieve what we're pursuing. So the vision for the Grove at Cottonwood is that we want to create a neuro-inclusive community. It's a intentionally neuro-inclusive, affordable community offering safe, accessible, independent living and supportive housing. And we really are approaching this understanding and committed to, I'm losing my talking points. Okay, thanks. So it's you know, we came to this with the intention that if we're designing this to meet the needs, to make sure it is universally designed, it's universally accessible, it really helps everybody to kind of design and create a space that is beneficial to any level of needs or abilities that is going to benefit everybody. So that is what we brought to this. The priority populations that we'll be serving at the Grove are adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. What we've learned from working with our experts, such as Desiree, is that the population, the services that we're going to be bringing to that site really are very much in common with the needs of older adults. And so we see this as a really potentially mutually beneficial community serving older adults, as well as potentially small families. We're right next door to a neuro-inclusive early children's center. And so the opportunity, we've heard from them loud and clear that their teachers, some of their families are in need of this housing. And so we are designing it with those three priority populations in mind. What we've designed is it's going to be 40 units, a mix of 1 and 2 bedrooms. The idea is we've heard loud and clear from our friends at Friends, as well as other community members, that the majority of our units are going to be 1 bedroom, with 30 of the units going to be 1 bedroom, because while we would love the idea of roommate situations, I think we've all had that bad roommate situation. So it's not unique to this population or any of us that, you know, people want to live independently and they want to live in their own. And there's just challenges of pairing up with somebody potentially for the long term. So we are focusing on 1 bedroom apartments, but we also are creating 2 bedroom options to accommodate roommate situations, or if there is a caregiver option, that might be something available as well. So, and then if you're looking at the smaller families or older adults that have maybe a married couple, the 2 bedrooms would be accommodating of that. We are also following the lead of the experts, and we are using a consumer controlled service model. So while we are creating an independent housing community, we really want our community members, the future Grove residents, to be out in our community and be a part of our community. So while they will live at the Grove and be a part of that community, the intention is that they will be accessing jobs and programming in Broomfield, throughout Broomfield. So, but it will be consumer driven. So they will have a choice. If they want to work with Friends and go participate in Friends Day programming, they are welcome to go work with Friends. If their program of choice is with Imagine or any other any other neighbors agencies that we are able to support or be in relationship with, we want people to be able to make those choices for themselves. Part of that is going to be, we're having to look really hard at transportation solutions. If any of you are familiar with Broomfield, we are not transit rich. There's a lot of limitations in terms of our connections that are provided by, or lack of connections from RTD. And so we're having to look at our local resources, as well as building that into our kind of service model in terms of how we are going to support this community. While it is going to be 40 units of housing, we are going to have a common house that is going to offer on-site property management, resident services. That looks like anything from, we're going to have a resident services coordinator that is going to provide service navigation and referral to community agencies, job placement support, transportation support, conflict resolution mediation, cooking classes. We did a really great opportunity with some residents, or some of the participants at Friends recently, and said, what do you want in your community? What would get you really excited? And the number one thing was cooking classes. People really want to do cooking classes. So we are going to build that into our model. It will have a dining room. We are looking at doing a warming kitchen, just because of the type of financing we're using. It really lends to more of a warming kitchen than, say, a commercial kitchen. So, but we do want to create a space where people are able to gather and have the community around food. Game room, multi-purpose, a computer room, meeting space for occasional service providers. While we are not going to be providing services on site, and we'll be encouraging our residents to partake in services and programming in the community, there might be a situation where somebody does need to meet with a service provider, and we want to have some flexible space that accommodates that. And then finally, we really want to create, we've partnered with an architect, Caddis Collaborative, that is very focused on creating intentional communities. And so we want to make sure that there's a lot of flexible, welcoming spaces where people can have events or gather to socialize with their neighbors, friends, and families. And so we're hearing a lot about the desire to get together and, have a potluck or watch the Broncos play. Maybe not this season, maybe in the future it'll be a more exciting season to watch, but that is the type of event that we want to help accommodate. We have heard loud and clear from our neighbors, like any of us that work in affordable housing, there is a NIMBY aspect that we are navigating. And one of the things that we are working closely with our neighbors is to ensure that there's going to be community guidelines that not just ensure the safety and comfort of our residents, but then also lay out how we'll be engaging with our neighbors. And so that's really for the protection of our residents, but then also of reassuring our neighbors that we are here, we are their neighbor, we want to be a part of the community, and this is how we will engage and interact with them. But at the end of the day, we are committed to creating a community where people of all neuroabilities can call home and thrive. That is the goal of this of the Grove. Maybe go to the next slide. There's so much information here, I could go on and on. Just touching on this really quick. So these are some of the financial resources that we're going to be pursuing. If you're a housing authority or you're looking at doing this in your community, these are the type of resources that we're pursuing. We're looking at the CHAFA small scale. What initiated this is CHAFA has a really great program where you can get free technical assistance to look at kind of a smaller size project. And so we were able to, we applied for that, and we're able to have access to a technical assistance team that included Desiree, as well as an architect and financial people to help us really, is it feasible for us to do this on this site? And so at the end of the day, we were provided a feasibility study and a market study, and that really launched this work. So totally recommend checking out CHAFA and this opportunity. And the other types of things that we had going for us is we had the land and pre-development available. So BHA was able to buy the land, and we were able to bring pre-development dollars to this. So we are putting out up to $1 million of our own funds that hopefully when we hit that 9% tax credit will be reimbursed. But that is something that we were able to bring to this opportunity. But then you'll see the list of sources that we'll be pursuing as well. Next slide. Oops, and I'm not sure why that's not showing up, but what it would tell you when it comes to the elements of success, it's like a surprise. Let me look at my presentation, is that I think it really does take, is strong partners. Broomfield Housing Alliance and Friends were able to bring together just our passion and our resources and our commitment, and just have just from the get-go, a really strong working relationship. Another one is leveraging expertise and listening and learning. So while a lot of us have personal experiences with individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, that is not my profession. I don't work with that population, but I am a houser. And so by us sitting at the table with Gina and her colleagues and learning from them and them learning from us, we're able to come together and just like leverage our expertise to do just a really meaningful development. The opportunity of the land presented itself, and it has a history that is meant to serve this population. And so it just kind of spoke for itself. And finally, the last one is do not lose sight of who you are serving and why. At the end of the day, it is really about this like commitment that has now become a project of passion and heart for BHA, to really do right by our community members that deserve just a beautiful, lovely place to live where they can grow and thrive and age in place. And so those are, I think, our elements of success. Gina, anything to add?
No, I think that you've described it eloquently, and I'm excited about it because it's not just an opportunity for folks to have an affordable physical residence, but it's an opportunity to also have those layered on supports that really help ensure that any housing situation for an individual or a small family can be successful, and that they can maintain that. And so that connection with additional wraparound services, things that are very accessible, is really going to be key to the success of this project, and hopefully, just as you said, create meaningful and engaging lives for those who live there.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Gina and Kristin. And apologize for the glitch in the slides. Just for the group, please know that we'll have these slides on our website at some point in the future, as well as the recording, and we'll make sure that we get those correct. Moving on now, we are going to drive from Broomfield on I-25 down to Castle Rock. So we'll see you in a couple hours. And I'd like to introduce representing the Unity on Park from the Douglas County Housing Partnership, Maria Ciano, and from Wellspring, Nicole DeVries. Take it away, guys.
Well, Maria, I'll start and then I'll hand it over to you to do the nitty-gritty details. But like Tim said, I'm the executive director at Wellspring Community. We are in partnership with Douglas County Housing Partnership, as well as a new nonprofit called Wellspring Housing. This project came about, a little over a year ago, when we realized that the hotel right next to our day program was available for sale. So we went to the Douglas County Board of County Commissioners. They decided to use ARPA funds to help purchase the facility for us. And so the idea, and you can go to the next slide, is to convert this hotel, which is a 63-unit hotel, into a 42-unit independent living facility. So there'll be 20 studio apartments and 22 one-bedroom apartments. We are working with the Housing Partnership to do this. Douglas County is supporting it, and Town of Castle Rock has come around it in a pretty significant way. The next slide, go to that. So the way that this is set up is very similar to what's happening in Broomfield. It'll be an integrated, intentional community, both disabled, non-disabled on site. Wellspring Housing and Wellspring Community will provide the staffing from a care and residential assistance side, and Douglas County Housing Partnership will do the on-site property management, maintenance, all the stuff that we don't know how to do, which is awesome for us that they're stepping in to do this. And then this will be an affordable housing project through Douglas County Housing Partnership. Next slide. I think I mentioned all this. We are, like I said, it's an intentional community, both disabled, non-disabled. Our individuals with IDD that live there must be able to live independently. We are hoping for a 50% IDD ratio in the facility, and hopefully we don't have it up and running yet, but we're hoping this will work, and that the residents that live there will find good housing as well as residential care while they're there. Next slide. Maria, do you want to talk about DCHP and what you guys are bringing to the table, and then go over financing, or do you want me to do that?
Yeah, I got it. Thanks, Nicole. So the Douglas County Housing Partnership is thrilled to be working with Wellspring Community and now Wellspring Housing on this development. And we're the public housing authority for Douglas County, Town of Castle Rock, Town of Parker, City of Castle Pines, and the City of Lone Tree. So as Nicole mentioned, the town and definitely the county have really put a lot of support in for this, for us to get this property and renovate it and to provide this housing, much needed housing. We think that our model is innovative, and there's not much in the area that provides this type of housing that's neuro-inclusive, but really the most important piece, I think, is that independent living program. So that folks are able to move in and acclimate and have that wraparound services, but also support in the community. And so close, just right around the corner from the Wellspring Community Day program and services. I think it's absolutely perfect there. And so once we have the hotel, we're trying to figure out, how do we make this happen? And so there's a lot of moving pieces and many people coming together to make this happen. I think one of the real big pieces is that ARPA grant from Douglas County. And I will say that, again, tremendous support from the county there, and not just support with the money, but, the Douglas County commissioners took time to invite folks and the stars to their meeting, to speak, to share their experiences, to talk about what it would mean to have housing that they could access, where they could thrive. And it's just a beautiful thing. And so we're going to share a link to a video that shares that day, that experience. It's, watch out for the tears for sure. Every time I watch it, it gets me. But so I encourage you to take a look at that link afterwards and just really feel the energy. And then also I will share that Nicole held the Wellspring Community Gala event recently, and they're sharing what the Wellspring Community does for the adults in the community with IDD and what they bring to the community in general. And they're sharing, the coffee shop and the arts that they do and just everything. And you get to the slide that shows the graphic of the hotel, and the room erupted and the stars teared, and it means so much to them. And I feel that, and we know how important this work is. And I'm assuming if you're on this webinar, you know it too, but so do they. They understand how important it is, and they understand how much it means to their future. And sometimes I share the story that my husband and I are going now into our 14th year of being a host home provider for my brother who has Down syndrome, and living on his own is not in the cards for him. It won't ever happen. Living with his sister is the best that he can get, So, but if it was something he could do, I would want him to have a place where he could go and live on his own and know that there's someone downstairs that's there for him if there's an emergency, but he's being independent. And to have that dignity and that choice is just so important. So again, this financing stack is people in the community understanding that, and the time that Nicole and that all of us have done just sharing the story of these folks, so that then when it comes time to asking for something like this, people know what we're going for it and why it matters. And so I'm very proud of that. So we have the ARPA grant from Douglas County, and we have also grants from the Colorado Division of Housing, and we were able to pull from a mill levy fund. Just going to go over these. There's not too much to share, but we also did receive support and fee waivers from the town of Castle Rock, and then to make everything work, we were also able to defer some developer fees, and of course take out a mortgage, and then utilize the Douglas County Housing Partnership bonding capacity to be able to move forward with the loan. So that's our financing stack, and we are currently just working on taking steps to get the hotel to become a community, and so to convert them to apartments, and that's going to take some time there. So in the meantime, we're going to be working through the details of the independent living program. How we're going to work through those details is something that will be solidifying here in the next few months, and just getting ready for the property management and to lease up the community and get going there. So if you go to the next slide, Tim, this is just the photo of the I couldn't get a hold of the great, clear photo yet, but this is a photo of the YouTube video that I encourage you to take a few minutes to watch, and you won't be sorry that you did. And this is when the Douglas County Board of Commissioners made the final votes, and just a huge milestone for this development here. So I think that, Nicole, if you want to jump in, if I missed anything, or if you want me to talk about anything in more detail, I'm happy to.
I think you did such a great job. Thank you, Maria. I will say, as we're talking about innovative solutions to the housing issue, that one of the things that always strikes me when I talk to people about what's happening here is the community support that we received. And you could see it on the financing stack that we wouldn't be able to do what we were doing without the partnerships and the collaboration that's happening. And so that's my big encouragement to people, is to meet with and talk to the people in their communities that have the potential to make this happen. Wellspring Community wouldn't be able to do this on our own in any way, shape, or form. So we're super grateful for that.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Maria and Nicole. And now we are going to move on, shift gears from housing development, and invite Ann Watts from the Colorado Division of Housing to talk to us a little bit about the community access team. Ann.
Thanks, Tim. Hey, everybody. So yes, shifting gears from housing development work to more programmatic support, shall we call it. So I'm Ann Watts with DOLA, which stands for Department of Local Affairs. That's your state's community development agency, Division of Housing. And on the community access team, we focus on housing for people with disabilities. So please, next slide. And here's our cat team mascot, who always wants to be in the presentation. So our team focuses on trying to help people with disabilities stay in their homes, out of nursing facilities or other kinds of institutions, by making their homes affordable, safe, and accessible. We have a few different rental assistance projects, as well as a couple of different home modification programs, as well as a host home inspection program. So I'll go into a little bit more detail on each of these. Next slide. So this is our community access team vouchers. Our state-funded housing vouchers are probably our largest program. Close second to our home modification program. But both of those programs are in partnership with HCPF and the Medicaid programming. It's the Community Access Team Voucher Program started as support for a federal demonstration grant program called Money Follows the Person. But since 2019, HCPF made the transition services that went along with that program a permanent part of Medicaid's state plan. So anyone who's enrolled in Medicaid, trying to exit from an institution, can basically get access to a transition coordinator to help them plan their move. And as part of that move, if they need housing, they can also apply to us for a voucher. And we are lucky enough to have the resources that we don't even have a waiting list. We have vouchers available for for everyone who's going through that program at this point in time. The program's designed to follow the same kind of pattern as the federally funded Housing Choice Voucher Program, which is often known as Section 8. But since it's state money, we have definitely some flexibilities, things like we can fund security deposits or damage fees, things like that. It's all tenant-based, which means the individuals can take that voucher anywhere. And I think I've already talked a lot about exiting institutions with transition services, but a more recent development in this program that's really exciting for people with IDD is that anyone who is enrolled in the supported living services waiver and seeks to avoid emergency placement on the developmental disabilities waiver can work with HCPF both on flexibility on their supported living services, the level of services that they're able to get, but they can also, if housing is a part of the issue, they can also come to us for a housing voucher. The intent of that program is really to help reduce that waiting list for the DD waiver and to support more people on the SLS waiver. And then also these vouchers, beyond those two priority populations, are also able to serve people who are at risk of being placed in an institution. So people with disabilities who are homeless, or experiencing homelessness, I should say, are able, in limited circumstances, to access these vouchers. Let's go to the next slide. Our other big rental assistance program is called Section 811 Project Rental Assistance. So this is a federal grant that we won actually 2 awards of from HUD. In our first award, it helped us create 91 units spread out across 7 projects. These units only can go to projects that are integrated housing. So that's defined as no more than 25% of the units in the project have any kind of a preference for people with disabilities. The second award that we received from HUD, so far we've had 1 property open up with, I believe, 9 units, although we're hoping to get that to 11 soon, and have recently decided to make an award to 1 other project. We still do have availability in this program for developers who are interested in including some housing for people with disabilities in their projects. The 811 program serves non-elderly folks, so you do need to be under 62. And basically you're using the same priority populations as the community access team vouchers, people exiting institutions, people on the SLS waiver, and people at risk because they are unhoused. And our role, we select the projects that these vouchers are going to go to. We also handle referral of eligible tenants to those units, and basically overall administration of those vouchers. Next slide. So this other voucher program is not really for people with IDD, but for persons with AIDS. So just another category of folks with disabilities that we're able to assist through a HUD grant. Let's go on to the next slide. Medicaid home modifications. So this program, we work in partnership with HCPF to help administer this benefit. It is available to people on specific HCBS waivers. For folks with IDD, that includes both the CES, and I apologize, I forget what that stands for, And the SLS waivers are able to use this program, and they can get up to about $5,000 of work done on their home. And that resource renews every 5 years when the waiver renews. So it kind of can be ongoing. And so for this program, Division of Housing is handling the day-to-day. We are looking at requests for home mods, making sure they're consistent with the evaluation done by the occupational or physical therapist. We also review them, of course, to make sure that they're in compliance with program regulations, that they're eligible for Medicaid funding. We inspect a sample of jobs and definitely get involved if there are any complaints with the work. And typically, we're doing ramps, we're modifying bathrooms, sometimes kitchens, widening doorways. If you find our website, which I can get you that link and put that in the chat after I'm done speaking. We've got a lookbook that helps you kind of envision possible home modifications that you might be interested in performing in your home. Next slide. So for those who are either don't have that Medicaid benefit, or maybe they need more work than that benefit can support, or just general population. We in Colorado have a state income tax credit for home modifications, and my team administers that. Started back in 2019. The maximum income is an odd dollar amount because it is pegged to the inflation rate. So that number, as you can imagine, has gone up quite a bit from when the program started, and will continue to increase along with the CPI. Obviously, since it's a state tax credit, you have to be somebody who owes state income taxes because it is not refundable, unfortunately. And unfortunately, folks do need to be able to pay for the work up front. But if you can do all of that and swing that, then when you submit your income tax return the following spring, you can realize up to $5,000 per person with a disability that the work is for. And that credit, if you don't owe $5,000 in state income taxes, you actually have up to 8 years to claim that credit. So it can be spread out over time. Division of Housing, we review requests, we inspect a sample of the jobs to make sure they're done appropriately, and we basically provide a tax certificate to the taxpayer to include in their taxes. And then we also report to the Department of Revenue so that they can verify anyone who claims the credit. Next slide. Last but not least, we, Division of Housing, partners with HCPF and Medicaid to inspect host homes and other types of residential settings that folks who get individual residential support services might live in. So even if it's an independent apartment, but if that apartment is owned or controlled by the by a provider as opposed to by the individual, then it is subject to our inspections. So we are tracking information on every host home and related setting that's out there. We have a goal of inspecting about 1,700 homes each year. We have started that inspection program. It is more expensive than we had anticipated it being, and so we are still trying to ramp up the budget in order to get to that level and number of inspections. And so that program is still growing. And then we work with HCPF and of course individuals and their families if there are any complaints or concerns in their homes. Okay, next slide. And that is my contact information. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take questions when we're ready to get there, but you're also welcome to shoot me an email if you would like to follow up on any of this with me. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Ann. A lot of great information. I'm going to switch gears here for a moment here and invite Cindy Opheim to come on with us to go ahead and do this. Let me just share my screen. There. Cindy, can you see the your slides?
I
Great.
can. Tim, thank you so much. And you're welcome just to kind of slide through these while I'm talking because they're really just pictures of a completed project. So my name's Cindy Opheim. I am the CEO of Cottonwood Community Alternatives. We are also, just like most of the presenters on here, a program approved agency in Colorado and throughout the Denver metro area. We had a project that we worked on over the last 5 years with City and County of Denver Department of Housing Stability. And this actually a little bit different than the independent settings. These were homes that City and County owned that were part of an Olmstead lawsuit that had to be used for special populations. And at the time, these homes had been used for transition mental health houses and had really become dilapidated and not a huge fan of neighbors in the area to have around. So we had a wonderful conversation with City and County about using these homes for individuals with IDD for 24-hour staff settings. So these are for individuals who independent settings don't work, nor does a host home or a family setting successfully for them. So Denver had us tour the houses. They were in really difficult shape, as you can see from some of these pictures. They were gutted down to the studs. And, you know, we said, we love the idea, we love the project. However, there's going to be issues with getting these houses up to par and remodeling. So Denver again came back and said, we'll find some funding to help support 50% of these remodels. So I just wanted to show a project that had been completed and is a little bit different than kind of the independent apartment settings. So these are called personal care alternatives. They are homes that have 3 individuals residing in them, as well as 24-hour staff that's physically in the home with them. And these opened up in December of 2022 and are full homes down in Denver area, and supporting individuals who, again, can't live independently or host homes or family settings are not successful for them. As I think everyone on this has mentioned, one of the themes of our webinar is really that collaborative and community support piece that comes along with all these projects. So we wanted to make sure people know there are options and ideas all around. It doesn't matter what county you're in. It doesn't matter what state entities you're working with. If we work with people, get the word out and discuss the options for affordable housing and projects and support that's out there and connect with people, that there's all kinds of ideas where we can do affordable housing and projects and get neuro-inclusive settings up and running in a multitude of different capacities. We do a lot of independent settings as well for people, with collaboration with Dolan and Ann and her community team to get people into affordable living. There's agency controlled setting as well as individual controlled settings. So it's just really, you know, our option with this webinar was just to make sure everyone knows there's so many different ideas out there and places we can look at to try to collaborate and get some of these projects done. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Cindy. And I'd also like to give a shout out to Cindy. She is the chair of the Inclusive Housing Coalition. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
I'm going to stop sharing here, and I am going to go ahead and bring up hopefully here the chat, so that we can answer a few of the questions that came up during the chat. Let's see what we have here. There was a question that came up that I think is probably geared towards either Broomfield or Castle Rock, the Grove, or Wellspring, which is at the appropriate time, can you share with the monthly operating costs, concierge, property management, resident services, common areas would be for a 1-bedroom, assuming this would be small enough for affordable rent? Or is there any additional fee you envision for these services besides rent? And then as a follow-up to that, is there anything planned? Does anybody know about anything planned for Parker? And it looks like there was an answer to that, which says nothing is planned for Parker at this time, to my knowledge, but I'm sure that there is a need for it. Any ideas, feel free to reach out to Maria Ciano with Douglas County, and the cell phone is on there. Maria has also been kind enough to drop in that link to the great video of the Douglas County partnership. Kristin has dropped in a link to the Grove at Cottonwood, but does anybody want to comment on services and costs? Kristin, go ahead.
I'll take a pass. So that is something we are spending a lot of time thinking about. To be honest, I don't have a number to throw out right now. We are pursuing a 9% low-income housing tax credit application this last year, and we're actually right now working through all of our numbers as to what that's going to look like. So I don't have a great answer, but regards to the specifics of that. But I will say that we recognize that we're going to need as many resources as possible. We actually have a great group of parents and some community agencies that are stepping into this space with us to do philanthropic work. So we know that it's not going to be covered all by tax credits. We don't want it to be felt by the residents. We want it to be able to be accessible and available to anybody and everybody, no matter what their economic means are. So we are getting pretty serious with a group of community advocates who are helping us kind of figure out the philanthropic piece of this. And that's meant to cover potentially the cost of a resident services coordinator, looking at that being for part-time in the beginning, as well as looking at the potential of buying a vehicle to help with transportation, since we are lacking that in our community, as well as just general programming and things of that sort. Gina, anything to add?
No, I think that does cover it. I think there are several options for us to add those services that can happen on site, so that's accessible for everyone that lives within the complex. And it's basically coming down to, we all want the same thing, but we're all coming from different provider perspectives, I guess. But in the end, we're going to come together, and all of us are going to figure out how to cover these, these needs, and to make sure that there's a successful situation for everyone. And I guess being, an affordable situation, we realize that all of our individuals that we serve are falling below the 30% AMI level, especially in the Denver metro areas. And so affordable is hopefully attainable, where affordable doesn't mean that in all areas, or in all situations. So, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Now, it looks like we have about 10 minutes left. So if anybody has a question, please just come on off of mute and feel free to ask, or you could drop it in the chat and I could get to it there. And comments are welcome as well. So it doesn't necessarily just have to be a question. Well, seeing none, I can go ahead and give you back about 10 minutes of your day. I just want to thank everybody for being with us today on this inaugural webinar from the Inclusive Housing Coalition. I hope it was informational for everybody. I think that you have the contact information for everybody that was on the webinar. Once again, please visit ihccolorado.org, follow us on LinkedIn, and have a wonderful rest of your day and rest of the week. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.